Obviously I want every single young person to be housed today, like not one more night on the street ever, ever, ever. But really my measure of success for this challenge is like, am I going to learn what Away Home Washington, what the sector, what the Office of Homeless Youth, what the legislature, are we going to learn things that are going to be able to make a changes at that level that are going to make it easier for every single community to be able to end unsheltered homelessness?
Hello, everybody. My name is Deontay Cruz. I go by they, them pronouns. I am your host for the podcast Ending Youth Homelessness. Today with me, we have a special guest. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, name, pronouns, title, and who you are, and like how you're connected with Away Home Washington.
Yeah, thanks, Deontay. My name is Ashley Barnes-Cocke. I go by they, them pronouns as well, and I am the ACI project director here at Away Home. And I started at Away Home on the Anchor Community Initiative team as the lead coach for Yakima, Spokane, Walla Walla, and Pierce counties way back in 2019, 3.5 years ago. And I've been the project director for the past 2.5 years, and I'm really excited to be here.
Perfect. And so in your own words, for folks who are viewing this who might not be as familiar with the Anchor Community Initiative, can you talk about what it is and why it is so important to our work?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Anchor Community Initiative is really a movement of communities across this state that have all raised their hands and said, we don't like the way things have been going. We work really hard on supporting young people experiencing homelessness in our communities, but we are going to raise our hands up and we are going to say, we're not managing youth homelessness anymore. We want to end it. And we want to know that we ended it. And we want to make sure that young people and especially youth of color and LGBTQ young people are centered in the conversations to be able to change the systems to end it. And so when we work with communities, we provide data support. We provide support on engaging young people with lived experience and in systems change to be able to support communities to really look at their systems in a really critical way to say, we're not getting the results that we want. And so what kinds of system changes are we going to try in a kind of a rapid cycle of continuous improvement to try to improve the way that our system functions as much as we can, and then advocate for the bigger level, state level systems changes that we all need across the state to make sure every young person has what they deserve, which is a stable place to call their own and not having to leave their own home community in order to get the access to that.
Perfect. We're all about making change here, and I am all for young people being able to access services quickly and efficiently. So just to give a little bit more context, can you tell folks a little bit about your tenure with Away Home Washington and what attracts you to the work here?
Yeah, absolutely. So this story really goes back to a few years right at the beginning of Away Home Washington. One of the first things that happened was the organization launched a series of 100-day challenges in Pierce County, Spokane County, and King County. And at the time, I was working with an organization called Youth Care in King County, and we were one of the kind of key players that jumped on board and said, yes, like we're going to do set an ambitious goal for our county. I think our goal was to try to house 450 young people in 100 days in King County. And, we jumped in and had that really intensive 100-day sprint to try to figure out like what are all the system changes that we're going to need to make in order to house that number of young people, which was a really huge increase from what we had been doing previously as a county. And so I was elected by the committee to be the lead of that. And it was so much fun to be able to like look at a system that I knew was not functioning up to its ability, or the ability of all the people working in the system, to be able to give ourselves permission for a short time just to like try things that we never thought that we could do. And really, as direct service providers, be the people who are treated as experts in that situation of being able to be like, I work with young people every day, and these are my barriers to housing young people. I thought it was so much fun to be able to like dream of a new system and like learn along the way what is actually going to work. Like what are we going to try? We can get really creative with it. And then we see, was our hypothesis correct or was it not? Is like the system actually getting the results that we want? And so after a while, I went to get my master's degree, and then I saw an opening at Away Home Washington to come and coach the communities. And I was like, I think I know how to do this. Like, I think this would be really fun to be able to be in a container of being able to fundamentally shift systems and give people in communities who are smart and passionate and like creative the kind of psychological permission to be like, we in this room are the system, and so we are the ones. If we change what we're doing, we can make things really different just in our own authorizing zone. And seeing people be able to like take up that responsibility for their system and responsibility for young people is the thing that keeps me here. And so excited to work with communities.
Perfect. So you talked a lot about unique ways in which we're housing folks in King County, and you took some of that learning and that you sort of applied it to how you've helped the Anchor Community Initiative evolve, and how Away Home Washington has sort of worked with these anchor communities to achieve functional zero. Let's talk a little bit more about that. Right now, we have an interesting thing going on, this surge challenge called House by the Holidays, with our original OG communities, that's Spokane, Walla Walla, Yakima, and Pierce counties. Can you talk a little bit about what it is, what this challenge is, and how it sort of looks on the ground?
Yeah, absolutely. So some context that I will just say is that all of our anchor communities, they, especially the ones in the reducing phase, so they are in the phase of looking at their actively homeless number and trying to figure out what is it going to take to drive that number down so that we can basically house all the young people who are coming into our system within 30 days or less, a community-wide average of 30 days or less. And so each of them sets time-stamped, measurable goals of like, we want to reduce our actively homeless number by 20%, and that is to this number over this next 6-month period of time. And so we are at the end of our community's last action cycle, and so they have been pushing to reduce that number overall. And we found this opportunity to be able to be like, okay, we are going to set a goal across our communities, a challenge goal, and just see how far we can push towards it. So when you think about a surge, it's really exactly what it sounds like. So all across our community, we are focused on one thing, one goal, and we're going to put a lot of energy into this for a short amount of time. And that's what we're challenging communities to do. So this challenge is called Housed by the Holidays, and we are trying to figure out what it takes to end unsheltered homelessness for young people across communities. It's something that, across Washington and across the US, across the world, people are really focused on. And we want to get young people inside and stably housed for the holiday season, which can be really hard for young people experiencing homelessness and people experiencing homelessness generally. And so we've challenged communities, those 4 communities, to house 25 unsheltered young people, or young people experiencing unsheltered homelessness by December 22nd, which is the day after Homelessness Remembrance Day that happens every year across the country. It's a really exciting challenge, and I'm excited to talk more about it.
I love it. So one of the things that we always say over here is that, homelessness is sort of a community issue, and it takes a village to be able to move the needle. Can you talk a little bit about all the different types of players who are involved with the House by the Holidays Challenge? Not just in the communities, but also at Away Home Washington, and if there's any sort of higher level community support as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are partnering with this for this challenge with the Office of Homeless Youth. And so I've been working really closely with Julie Patino, our executive director, and Kim Justice, the director of the Office of Homeless Youth, to really partner on this challenge. And Kim and I have been talking a lot about like, how can we learn alongside communities what it really takes, like what are the barriers that they are going to uncover during this month of focusing only on unsheltered homelessness. What are the barriers that they're going to uncover, and what can they do in their communities? And then what is the stuff that we are going to have to do in the advocacy lane to be able to change state policy and funding sources, those kinds of things. And then what are the things that the Office of Homeless Youth is able to remove barriers for their grantees and in supporting those communities as they're making kind of the larger level strategic efforts of the state around youth homelessness. And so we are paying really close attention to this challenge, not only because we want them to house as many young people as possible, especially young people experiencing unsheltered homelessness, but we also want to learn. We want to learn with them because there's some things that they can do, and there's some things that have to have higher level systemic change. And we are waiting in the wings. We're ready to try to make those changes at the state level. On the local level, right, the Anchor Community Initiative is based on integrating like the homelessness system along with other systems of care. So talking about the foster care system, talking about school systems. And so this is really a community-wide effort to get everybody on the same page. And the interesting thing about this challenge that is a little bit different from other ones that we've done in the past is that really we're talking about young people across the entire system, and young people experiencing homelessness are also in the veteran system. They are also in the family system. They are also in the single adult system. They don't all end up in the youth homelessness services sector. So this challenge is really inviting communities to strengthen the relationships that they have with their partners in other kind of homelessness population sectors that don't always necessarily work together in our system. So I'm really excited about that.
That's really cool and interesting. I never really thought about the fact that young people, might not necessarily be accessing houses or services through the youth service system. You bring up such an interesting point. Speaking of housing, can you talk a little bit just like broadly about some of the interesting ways that young people have been housed in the anchor communities, either through this challenge or in previous ways that you've known about through the Anchor Community Initiative?
Yeah, well, it's really exciting to see communities specifically integrating their work around case conferencing into this. So case conferencing is basically getting all of the providers in a community. So not just one agency, not just one type of homelessness worker, like not just all the outreach workers or whatever the case may be, but get everybody in a room together and be like, we're going to go name by name and talk about every single one of these young people and make sure every single one of them has a plan to get to the next step. A number of our anchor communities are focusing on their full list of unsheltered young people during this challenge and going name by name and saying, okay, like what actually are we going to do here for this young person, and what would it take to get them across the finish line? Because that kind of conversation, when we're talking about the individuals on the list, can, even if it doesn't mean that young person gets housed immediately, it can uncover barriers and kind of trends across the system that are saying like, these 5 young people have the same system barrier to getting housed. And that is on us. Like, what are we going to do to make a system that is more accessible to those young people? Because at the end of the day, ending youth homelessness means we have to work with every young person. We can't work with just the young people who like fit in a particular category. We have to work with every single young person on the list. And we have to make a system that can work for all of them. And so that process of going name by name is really useful. And then another thing, I'm not sure if any communities are doing this, but I'm really hoping that they do this. And I suggested to them that they do this, is literally just call all of those young people experiencing unsheltered homelessness. Try to get a hold of them, try to reach them, try to find them, talk to the service provider that was in last contact with them, and ask them what they think their barrier is. Because we as service providers can talk all day about what we think their barrier is. But they might have, and often do, know exactly what they need to get housed. And we just need to listen to young people and put them at the front to be able to do that. And so one of the suggestions that we made is like, call every single one of them, try to have a conversation about like, what do you think it would take? Because a lot of the things like we might be able to work with, we might be able to do something about that.
I love that. I love that. Putting the power back in the client's hands, who are oftentimes already telling us exactly what they need. And we just need to have a system that is receptive to that and able to sort of pivot and make those changes and address people's needs as they come up. How would you, I know that like the challenge has just started, but I also know that the communities are making amazing progress. They're doing some amazing things. From your perspective, how would you say the House by the Holidays challenge is progressing?
Yeah, that is a great question. So it is early days, and I like, in my mind, the real value of this challenge, like, obviously I want every single young person to be housed today, like not one more night on the street ever, ever, ever. But really, like I said before, my my measure of success for this challenge is like, am I going to learn what Away Home Washington, what the sector, what the Office of Homeless Youth, what the legislature, are we going to learn things that are going to be able to make a changes at that level that are going to make it easier for every single community to be able to end unsheltered homelessness and make progress towards that. And so that is something that like I and our coaching team and our data team is looking at really closely to be like, okay, like what are we learning and what are the communities learning? And I'm really excited in January, we have some kind of set time to elevate some of those learnings together and talk together about what we're all taking away from this challenge. So I think that's really great. And I think there's a couple of really cool things that are showing up so far in the data. So, yesterday, right in the wire, at the end of the day, we got seven folks across communities logged that they house somebody experiencing unsheltered homelessness, which is so great to see at the end of the day on a Thursday. And so that is really exciting. But I think one of the more exciting things is that young people of color represent about half of the housing placement so far. And queer young people are showing up as well. And so LGBTQ folks and non-binary and trans folks are showing up already in these housing placements. And, especially for gender expansive young people, it's often the case, especially because of the way that the data is categorized by the data systems that communities have to use. It doesn't necessarily capture gender diverse young people in a way that I think is accurate, we think is accurate, and young people think is accurate. And so it is really cool to be able to see in the data already that like there is already a higher proportion of trans and gender diverse young people who are being housed by this challenge than is kind of like relevant in if you look at the overall numbers out of the homeless management information database. So that demographic information is really cool because, we all know that our systems generally, and our homelessness system is no exception, really keep a lot of young people out of them based on identity, not by the fault of any individual person, but by the biases that are kind of built into the way that we have created these systems. And so the push of our communities to try to undo that via every opportunity that they have, including this challenge, is just really exciting to see.
I love that. Continuous improvement science, always taking our learnings and applying them and making those changes. So that really concludes the bulk of the questions. But at the end of every podcast, I love to end with showing people love. Ashley, do you have anybody in the communities, an entity, a resource, a person who's on the ground doing the work, somebody at the high level managing the work? Any shout outs that you would like to give, any love that you would like to show? Now is the time.
Oh my gosh. Like I can't even tell you. There's so many people. So Sam Jackal in Walla Walla, I love you. And you are going to pull that by name list and you are going to clear the whole thing in Walla Walla. Sam has been working so hard to make sure that all of these systems are set up, along with Tim Melia, the lead in Walla Walla. Henry Walker, you're the lead on the top of the leaderboard right now with 4 housing placements yourself in Spokane. Henry is on the InReach team, I believe, at the Volunteers of America. And that's super, super exciting. Anthony Worthy, I don't know who you are in Pierce County, but you're killing it. You're killing it. I just regularly are seeing you house people, and I'm here for it. And then, we have to mention the Gators in Walla Walla, the Navigator team at Blue Mountain Blue Mountain Action Council, who are, constantly pounding the pavement, looking for young people, trying to win a challenge. And Mari, I saw your 3 housing placements yesterday come through, and it's really, really exciting.
Is that it? I know you got more.
Oh my God. Well, I don't know how many I'm allowed to give out. We've been talking a lot about our Cohort 1 anchor communities, Walla Walla, Yakima, Pierce County, and Spokane, who are all doing this unsheltered challenge. But our Cohort 2 anchor communities, they're also doing a challenge. They're playing by name list bingo. And Terrell Terrell Berry in Clark County, like they're like halfway through their bingo card already for trying to get to quality, reliable data. And it is really exciting to see. I also heard a rumor that Terrell is going to try to get Clark to house some unsheltered young people as well, and make sure that they give Cohort 1 a run for their money already, which is really exciting. And then it was very, very cute. I saw yesterday that the Whatcom ACI team, in one of their meetings, they posted, they all put like little things cheering on their Cohort 1 comrades, being like, you can do it, like, you got this. And it was one of the cutest little pictures that I've ever seen. So Deontay, it's in the Dream Team chat.
Hey, I'm gonna go keep that. All right, that concludes our interview. Thank you so much for joining us, Ashley. Hopefully we'll have another interview, and then we'll have to bring the whole team. So we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Bye.